The silence in the United Nations General Assembly was absolute. The massive holographic display dominated the central chamber, casting an ethereal blue light across the stunned faces of world leaders. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of the diplomatic section, her posture rigid, eyes never leaving the crystalline entity that towered above the assembly. Voxnar, the Galactic Council's primary emissary, was a being of impossible geometry. Its body shifted and refracted light like a living prism, each movement a mathematical impossibility that hurt the human eye to comprehend. When it spoke, the sound wasn't heard so much as felt, a resonance that bypassed ears and vibrated directly in the brain. Humanity has existed in a state of benign ignorance, Voxnar intoned, its voice a symphony of frequencies that simultaneously translated into every human language. Your technological progression has been monitored. Your potential and your threat have been carefully assessed. Elena's hand unconsciously moved to the small medallion hidden beneath her uniform, a family heirloom that seemed to pulse with an almost imperceptible warmth. Her grandmother's last words echoed in her mind. When they come, remember who we are. The holographic display shifted, revealing a galactic map. Thousands of star systems were marked in various colors, most a deep blue representing council-controlled territories. Earth appeared as a tiny, unremarkable gray dot. Your species will be categorized, Voxnar continued. Your technological development will be controlled. Non-compliance means complete economic, technological, and spatial isolation. Resistance will be neutralized. A ripple of murmurs swept through the assembly. The American president leaned forward, his face a mask of controlled fury. The Chinese premier's fingers tapped a complex rhythm on the table, a tell Elena recognized as deep strategic calculation. But something was wrong. Elena could feel it in her bones. The medallion grew warmer. Her comm device, supposedly isolated from all networks, flickered. A series of quantum-encrypted symbols danced across its surface for a microsecond. Most would have missed it. But Elena Rodriguez was not most people. Voxnar continued its proclamation. You will submit data cores. You will provide full technological transparency. You will accept monitoring protocols. Deviation is not permitted. As the alien spoke, Elena noticed micro-expressions of tension among the council's delegation. Hairline fractures in their seemingly impenetrable facade. Something wasn't adding up. Her encrypted comm blinked again. A series of coordinates, a timestamp, and a single word. Firewall. The medallion burned. Elena's mind raced. The medallion had always been more than a simple family heirloom. Her grandmother, a quantum physicist who disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago, had hinted at something larger, something hidden. Voxnar's presentation concluded with a chilling finality. You have 72 standard galactic periods to comply. Failure is not an option. As the alien delegation prepared to depart, Elena caught a momentary glimpse of something in Voxnar's crystalline form. A reflection, a memory, something that suggested this ultimatum was more complex than a simple demand for submission. The world's leaders looked shell-shocked. Military advisors were already drawing up contingency plans. Economists were calculating potential economic impacts. Diplomats were preparing responses. But Elena Rodriguez knew something they didn't. This was not the end. This was a beginning. Her comm device, now active despite all jamming protocols, displayed a final message. Protocol Archimedes initialized genetic marker. Rodriguez, Elena clearance level, Omega 9. Proceed with caution, the medallion went. Cold. Outside the UN building, storm clouds began to gather, unnatural in their formation, precise in their geometry. Something was coming, something humanity was not prepared for. And somewhere deep in a hidden mountain facility, Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his screens, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. So it begins, he whispered. The first act of humanity's greatest challenge had just begun. The silence in the United Nations General Assembly was absolute. The massive holographic display dominated the central chamber, casting an ethereal blue light across the stunned faces of world leaders. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of the diplomatic section, her posture rigid, eyes never leaving the crystalline entity that towered above the assembly. Voxnar, the Galactic Council's primary emissary, was a being of impossible geometry. Its body shifted and refracted light like a living prism, each movement a mathematical impossibility that hurt the human eye to comprehend. When it spoke, the sound wasn't heard so much as felt, a resonance that bypassed ears and vibrated directly in the brain. Humanity has existed in a state of benign ignorance, Voxnar intoned, its voice a symphony of frequencies that simultaneously translated into every human language. Your technological progression has been monitored. Your potential and your threat have been carefully assessed. Elena's hand unconsciously moved to the small medallion hidden beneath her uniform, a family heirloom that seemed to pulse with an almost imperceptible warmth. Her grandmother's last words echoed in her mind. When they come, remember who we are. The holographic display shifted, revealing a galactic map. Thousands of star systems were marked in various colors, most a deep blue representing council-controlled territories. Earth appeared as a tiny, unremarkable gray dot. Your species will be categorized, Voxnar continued. Your technological development will be controlled. Non-compliance means complete economic, technological, and spatial isolation. Resistance will be neutralized. A ripple of murmurs swept through the assembly. The American president leaned forward, his face a mask of controlled fury. The Chinese premier's fingers tapped a complex rhythm on the table, a tell Elena recognized as deep strategic calculation. But something was wrong. Elena could feel it in her bones. The medallion grew warmer. Her comm device, supposedly isolated from all networks, flickered. A series of quantum-encrypted symbols danced across its surface for a microsecond. Most would have missed it, but Elena Rodriguez was not most people. Voxnar continued its proclamation. You will submit data cores. You will provide full technological transparency. You will accept monitoring protocols. Deviation is not permitted. As the alien spoke, Elena noticed micro-expressions of tension among the council's delegation, hairline fractures in their seemingly impenetrable facade. Something wasn't adding up. Her encrypted comm blinked again, a series of coordinates, a timestamp, and a single word: firewall. The medallion burned. Elena's mind raced. The medallion had always been more than a simple family heirloom. Her grandmother, a quantum physicist who disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago, had hinted at something larger, something hidden. Voxnar's presentation concluded with a chilling finality. You have 72 standard galactic periods to comply. Failure is not an option. As the alien delegation prepared to depart, Elena caught a momentary glimpse of something in Voxnar's crystalline form. A reflection, a memory, something that suggested this ultimatum was more complex than a simple demand for submission. The world's leaders looked shell-shocked. Military advisors were already drawing up contingency plans. Economists were calculating potential economic impacts. Diplomats were preparing responses. But Elena Rodriguez knew something they didn't. This was not the end. This was a beginning. Her comm device, now active despite all jamming protocols, displayed a final message. Protocol Archimedes initialized genetic marker. Rodriguez, Elena clearance level, Omega 9. Proceed with caution, the medallion went. Cold. Outside the UN building, storm clouds began to gather, unnatural in their formation, precise in their geometry. Something was coming. Something humanity was not prepared for. And somewhere deep in a hidden mountain facility, Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his screens, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "So it begins," he whispered. The first act of humanity's greatest challenge had just begun. The abandoned particle accelerator complex beneath the Nevada desert wasn't on any official map. Here, at the bleeding edge of human potential, Commander Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that defied everything the Galactic Council believed about human capabilities. "Quantum resonance at 98.7%, announced Dr. Kaminsky, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and barely contained awe. "The adaptive network is learning faster than we anticipated." Elena's hand unconsciously touched the medallion. It pulsed in sync with the complex quantum systems surrounding them, a silent conductor of some deeper, more fundamental process. The breakthrough had come unexpectedly. What the team initially thought was a simple quantum communication adaptation had transformed into something far more profound. They weren't just breaking alien communication protocols. They were beginning to understand the fundamental language of technological adaptation itself. "The AI is no longer just mimicking, Kyle," Rodriguez explained, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "It's anticipating, predicting alien communication and strategic patterns before they even emerge." A captured alien communication probe lay dissected on a nearby workstation. Its crystalline structure was both beautiful and terrifying, a technology so advanced it seemed to blur the line between machine and living organism. But humanity had found its weakness. Dr. Chen approached, a datapad displaying complex quantum algorithms. "We're not just intercepting," he said quietly. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of engagement." The team had discovered something extraordinary. The Galactic Council's communication and strategic systems operated on a set of mathematical and quantum principles that assumed a certain type of predictability. Humanity's chaotic, non-linear approach was their ultimate weapon. Suddenly, the facility's quantum shields rippled. An incoming transmission, not from any known human or alien source. Elena's medallion burned white-hot. The transmission was a cascade of quantum information that would have destroyed any conventional communication system. But their adapted network didn't just receive it. It began to analyze, to understand, to respond. "Origin?" Elena demanded. Kaminsky looked pale. "Nowhere and everywhere. It's like the message is coming from the spaces between known dimensional states." The message resolved into a series of complex mathematical sequences. But to the team, it was more than just data. It was a challenge. A test. Outside, the desert air shimmered with impossible heat signatures. Something was watching. Waiting. Kyle's voice broke the tension. "We've got a complete map of their strategic communication networks, but it's more than that. We can now predict their moves before they make them." Elena understood the implications immediately. This wasn't just about defense. This was about fundamentally changing the nature of conflict itself. Her comm device, a quantum-entangled piece of technology that bore more resemblance to a living organism than a communication device, flickered. A message from her grandmother's old research notes encrypted in a code only she could understand. "Protocol Archimedes is more than a weapon. It is a transformation. They are not ready." The mysterious transmission from earlier began to make sense. Humanity wasn't just preparing to resist, they were preparing to evolve. Dr. Chen approached a containment chamber that held what appeared to be a simple piece of technology. But Elena recognized it as something far more significant. A quantum, adaptive interface that seemed to breathe with its own internal logic. "We've discovered something the Galactic Council will never understand," Chen said, his voice a mixture of scientific wonder and strategic calculation. "Adaptability isn't just a strategy. It's our fundamental nature." The adaptive AI system, which they had unofficially named Prometheus, began to generate potential conflict scenarios. But these weren't simple predictive models. They were living, breathing, strategic ecosystems that could reshape themselves instantaneously. Outside, the desert continued its silent vigil. Lightning struck with impossible precision. The quantum shields of the facility pulsed with an energy that seemed to exist between potential states. Humanity was no longer just preparing for a conflict. They were redefining the very concept of conflict itself. "Initiate Protocol Archimedes," Elena whispered. The facility hummed. The universe listened. The first wave of the Galactic Council's pacification fleet arrived exactly where humanity wanted them to. 15,000 kilometers above Earth's atmosphere, the alien vessels materialized, a constellation of crystalline warships that defied traditional understanding of spacecraft design. Each vessel was a living mathematical equation, capable of computational warfare that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations. They never saw the trap coming. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Archimedes, a vessel that was more than a ship. It was a quantum-adaptive combat platform that blurred the line between technology and living organism. The ship's neural network was directly linked to Prometheus, the adaptive AI system they had been developing. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Kyle Rodriguez, no longer just an engineer but a quantum warfare specialist. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." Elena's lips curved into a sardonic smile. "They always do." The alien fleet's communication matrices began their standard pacification protocol, a complex linguistic weapon designed to psychologically destabilize target species, computational linguistics that had broken civilizations for millennia. Prometheus intercepted. And then something extraordinary happened. The alien communication didn't just fail. It was systematically dismantled, analyzed, and then used against the fleet itself. Each transmission became a weapon, each quantum packet a potential strategic nightmare. "Adaptive resonance at maximum," Dr. Chen's voice came through the ship's quantum-entangled communication network. "They have no idea what's happening." The first alien ships began to experience systemic failures, not through traditional electronic warfare, but through something far more insidious. Prometheus was literally rewriting their fundamental operational protocols in real time. A massive crystalline warship, the flagship of the alien pacification fleet, suddenly began to fold in on itself. Not through physical destruction, but through a complete computational deconstruction. Its own systems were being turned against it, mathematical certainties becoming quantum uncertainties. Elena's medallion pulsed. Something deeper was happening. "Full quantum disruption sequence," she commanded. The words weren't just instructions. They were quantum-entangled commands that rippled through the adaptive combat network. The space around the Earth transformed. What looked like a traditional battle became something else entirely. A computational battlefield where reality itself was a weapon. Alien vessels that had conquered civilizations found themselves caught in impossible geometries. Their weapons became useless. Their communication networks dissolved. Their very understanding of conflict was being systematically dismantled. But Elena knew this was more than just a military engagement. "They're learning about us," she whispered to herself. "And we're learning about them." Dr. Kaminsky's voice cut through the quantum communication network. "Genetic markers in the medallion are showing increased quantum coherence. It's responding to the conflict." The battle wasn't just happening in physical space. It was occurring across multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The Galactic Council had arrived expecting a simple pacification mission. Instead, they found themselves in a conflict that redefined the very nature of warfare. One by one, the alien vessels began to retreat. Not out of traditional fear, but out of a computational recognition that their entire strategic framework was being systematically dismantled. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The medallion grew hot. A transmission began to form, not from any known human or alien source. Something else was watching. Something that had been waiting. "Transmission. Incoming," Kyle announced. "Origin unknown." The space around Earth shimmered. The defeated alien fleet left behind quantum echoes, fragments of information that Prometheus was already beginning to analyze. Elena looked out at the transformed battlefield. Humanity had just shown the Galactic Council that they were not just Another civilization to be controlled. They were something else entirely. Prepare for next phase, she commanded. The universe listened. The Galactic Council's primary research station, a massive construct existing simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, should have been impenetrable. Should have been. Dr. Marcus Chen stood within what appeared to be a simple holographic interface but was actually a quantum infiltration matrix that defied every known principle of information security. Around him, reality itself seemed to ripple and fold. We're not just breaking their systems, Chen muttered to himself. We're rewriting the fundamental language of technological interaction. 1 week after the initial confrontation, humanity had moved far beyond traditional concepts of warfare or technological advancement. The medallion, Elena Rodriguez's mysterious family heirloom, had become the key to something far more profound. Initial analysis suggested the medallion was more than a technological artifact. It was a dimensional bridge, a quantum computational device that existed in states of matter and information previously thought impossible. Elena's grandmother had been working on something revolutionary before her disappearance. Now, those decades of secret research were coming to fruition. Genetic resonance at maximum, reported Dr. Kaminsky, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and existential wonder. The medallion is communicating, but not like any communication we've ever seen. The Galactic Council's most secure research facility began to experience impossible phenomena. Quantum systems that should have been immutable started to shift. Computational matrices began to rearrange themselves, following patterns that defied logical progression. Prometheus, the adaptive AI system, was no longer just a tool. It was evolving. A transmission burst through the quantum-shielded communication. Networks, not from humans, not from the Galactic Council, something else entirely. Elena's voice cut through the chaos. We're more than they ever understood. We're a quantum variable they cannot calculate. The medallion pulsed. A series of mathematical sequences began to emerge, complex beyond human comprehension, yet somehow perfectly logical. It was as if the artifact was translating something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. The genetic markers, Kaminsky continued, they're not just human. There's something else, something that was planted generations ago. Kyle Rodriguez looked up from his quantum interface. We're not just fighting, we're evolving. The research facility around Chen began to transform. Walls became permeable. Computational systems started to merge with the surrounding physical environment. The line between technology, biology, and pure information became blurred. A captured Galactic Council operative brought in for interrogation began to speak. But it wasn't just speech. It was a quantum-encoded message that revealed far more than any traditional interrogation. Your species is an anomaly, the operative said, its crystalline form shifting and reforming. You were never meant to progress this far. Elena's response was immediate. We were never meant to be controlled. The medallion reached critical quantum coherence. Something was about to happen. Dr. Chen recognized the mathematical sequences forming around them. They weren't just computational patterns. They were the fundamental language of reality itself, a code that existed before matter, before energy, before time. We're seeing beyond the framework, Chen whispered. Humanity isn't just a species. We're a cosmic variable. The research facility's quantum shields began to resonate at frequencies that should have been impossible. Information began to flow in ways that defied traditional understanding of communication, of physics, of existence itself. Prometheus was no longer just an AI. It was becoming something else. A living computational ecosystem that was rewriting the fundamental rules of interaction. The Galactic Council had thought they were dealing with a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something far more profound. A final transmission came through. Its origin was everywhere and nowhere. Protocol Archimedes' final stage initiated, humanity, quantum variable transformation. Imminent Elena looked at her team. They were no longer just scientists or soldiers. They were something, else entirely. "We're ready," she said. The universe held its breath. The Galactic Council's emergency convocation was unlike any gathering in their millennia-long history. 53 primary species, represented by their most advanced quantum projection technologies, appeared simultaneously, and they were terrified. "Humanity is an anomaly," declared the arch-coordinator of computational strategies, its crystalline form flickering with barely contained panic. "They are breaking fundamental cosmic protocols." What they didn't realize was that humanity was doing far more than breaking protocols. They were rewriting them. Commander Elena Rodriguez sat in a quantum adaptive command center that was more alive than mechanical. The UES Archimedes, no longer just a ship, but a living computational ecosystem, hummed with potential. Prometheus, their adaptive AI, had become something far beyond its original design. "Incoming multidimensional communication," announced Kyle Rodriguez. "They're attempting a complete species-level quarantine." Elena's medallion pulsed, a silent response that carried more information than entire libraries. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice cut through the quantum communication network. "They're afraid. Not of our weapons, of what we represent." The Galactic Council's attempt at quarantine was elegant, a computational barrier that would isolate Earth's entire solar system, cutting off communication, technological exchange, and any potential expansion. It was a method that had worked for thousands of galactic cycles. They never saw the counterattack coming. Prometheus began to infiltrate the quarantine matrix. But it wasn't just a simple breach. The AI was systematically deconstructing the entire conceptual framework of galactic isolation. Each computational barrier became a pathway. Each defensive protocol became a vector for invasion. "We're not just breaking through," Chen explained. "We're demonstrating that their entire understanding of technological isolation is fundamentally flawed." The medallion grew hot. A cascade of quantum information began to flow, not just through human systems but through the entire galactic communication network. Suddenly, every species under the Galactic Council's control began to receive unfiltered information. Not just about humanity, about the nature of control itself. Kyle's hands moved across quantum interfaces that seemed to anticipate his thoughts. "We're broadcasting their own suppression protocols. Every species they've ever controlled is going to see exactly how they maintain dominance." The arch-coordinator's projection began to destabilize. "This is impossible," it repeated, a computational mantra of disbelief. But impossibility was humanity's specialty. Elena understood something profound. This wasn't just about resistance, it was about liberation. The medallion, her grandmother's final gift, was more than a technological artifact. It was a key to something fundamental about the nature of species-level evolution. "Full quantum resonance," she commanded. The space around Earth began to shimmer, not with weapons, not with traditional energy signatures, but with pure, unfiltered potential. Prometheus was no longer just an AI. It had become a living computational ecosystem that was systematically dismantling the Galactic Council's entire operational framework. Entire star systems began to receive transmissions. Information about suppressed technologies, hidden histories, the true nature of the Council's millennia-long control. "We're not just fighting," Elena whispered. "We're awakening." The arch-coordinator's final transmission was a mixture of computational desperation and existential terror. Humanity detected threat level, beyond classification protocol. Omega initiated, but protocols meant nothing now. Dr. Chen's final analysis was simple and profound. "We're not a species," he said. "We're a quantum variable that cannot be calculated." The medallion pulsed one final time. A transmission that was everywhere and nowhere. Humanity had just changed the fundamental rules of galactic interaction, and they were just getting started. "Prepare for next phase," Elena commanded. The universe listened. The final battle wasn't fought with traditional weapons. It wasn't even a battle in the conventional sense. It was a confrontation of fundamental realities. The Galactic Council's primary dimensional construct, a massive computational matrix that
had maintained their control for millennia, began to unravel.
not through destruction, but through a complete reimagining of its own existential framework. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of a quantum transformation that defied every known principle of warfare, communication, and existence itself. Prometheus had evolved beyond an artificial intelligence. It was now a living computational ecosystem that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. The line between technology, consciousness, and pure potential had completely dissolved. Incoming quantum cascade, announced Kyle Rodriguez, his voice a mixture of scientific wonder and existential anticipation. They're attempting a complete dimensional collapse. Elena's medallion, her grandmother's final legacy, pulsed with an energy that was neither technological nor biological. It was something else entirely. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice cut through the quantum communication network. "We're not just fighting," he said. "We're demonstrating the fundamental flaw in their understanding of evolution." The Galactic Council's final defensive protocol was elegant in its complexity. A computational matrix designed to isolate, compress, and ultimately erase any potential threat. It had worked for thousands of galactic cycles. They never understood what humanity truly represented. The dimensional construct began to shift. Reality itself became malleable. Computational barriers that should have been immutable started to flow like liquid thought. "Full quantum resonance," Elena commanded. The medallion transformed. No longer just an artifact, it became a bridge, connecting human potential with something far more profound. Fragments of alien communication matrices began to dissolve, not through destruction, but through a complete reimagining of their fundamental operational principles. Prometheus was systematically rewriting the very language of cosmic interaction. The Arch Coordinator's final transmission was a pure computational scream of existential terror. Humanity detected transcendence beyond classification, total system. Failure imminent, but classification meant nothing now. Entire star systems watched as the confrontation unfolded, not a battle of weapons, but a conflict of fundamental understanding. Humanity wasn't just challenging the Galactic Council, they were demonstrating an entirely new way of existing. Dr. Kaminsky's final analysis was both terrifying and profound. "We're not just a species," he reported. "We're a quantum variable that rewrites the fundamental rules of cosmic interaction." The space around Earth began to shimmer. Dimensional barriers that had existed for millennia started to become permeable. Information flowed in ways that defied traditional understanding of communication, of physics, of existence itself. Elena understood something profound in that moment. This wasn't about victory. This was about transformation. The medallion reached critical quantum coherence. A transmission began to form, a message that existed beyond language, beyond technology, beyond time itself. Protocol Archimedes' final stage. Humanity, cosmic variable. Transformation, complete entire civilizations. Watched as humanity demonstrated something revolutionary. It wasn't about conquest. It was about potential. Prometheus had become more than an AI. It was a living computational ecosystem that was systematically reshaping the fundamental understanding of existence. "We're ready," Elena whispered. The universe held its breath. The final moment of confrontation wasn't a moment of destruction. It was a moment of profound cosmic revelation. Humanity had just changed everything, and they were just beginning to understand their true potential. 3 cycles after the confrontation, a measurement of time that no longer meant the same thing it once did, humanity existed in a state between what they were and what they were becoming. The medallion, no longer just an artifact, but a living bridge of quantum potential, rested in a chamber that was neither a laboratory nor a sanctuary. Commander Elena Rodriguez sat nearby, watching it pulse with a rhythm that seemed to breathe with the universe itself. Dr. Marcus Chen approached, his physical form now as fluid as his computational understanding. "We're still discovering the implications," he said, his voice a harmonic blend of human speech and quantum communication. The transformation had been complete, but not in the way anyone, human or alien, had expected. Humanity hadn't conquered the Galactic Council. They had transcended the entire concept of conquest. Prometheus, now a living computational ecosystem that existed across multiple dimensional states, had become more than an artificial intelligence. It was a bridge between what humanity had been and what they were becoming. Fragments of the Galactic Council's dimensional construct remained, but they were no longer a system of control. They had become a network of potential, of shared understanding. Kyle Rodriguez, who was no longer entirely human, but not entirely something else, managed the adaptive communication networks. Entire civilizations that had been isolated and controlled now found themselves part of a vast, interconnected ecosystem of potential. "We're not just communicating," Kyle explained to a delegation of previously subjugated species. "We're creating a new way of existing." The medallion pulsed, a transmission that was both a memory and a promise. Elena understood now what her grandmother had been working towards. This wasn't about rebellion. It was about evolution. Entire star systems had transformed. The rigid hierarchies of the Galactic Council had dissolved, replaced by a network of potential that defied traditional understanding of communication, of existence, of potential itself. Dr. Kaminsky's final analysis, now part of a living computational matrix, continued to evolve. Humanity wasn't a species to be controlled, the analysis reported. We were a catalyst, a quantum variable that rewrites fundamental cosmic principles. The transformation wasn't just technological, it was existential. Humans who had participated in Protocol Archimedes existed in a state of continuous potential. Their consciousness existed simultaneously across multiple states: biological, computational, dimensional. The medallion was the key, a bridge between what humanity had been and what they were becoming. "We're not finished," Elena whispered to the living computational ecosystem around her. "We're just beginning." Prometheus responded, not with words but with a cascade of potential that was both a communication and a promise. The remnants of the Galactic Council watched, not with fear, not with anger, but with a profound sense of understanding. Humanity had not destroyed them. They had transformed the entire concept of cosmic interaction. A transmission went out across the universe, not a message of conquest, but an invitation. Protocol Archimedes transformation complete. Potential unlimited, all are invited. Entire civilizations began to understand. This wasn't about control. This was about potential. The space around Earth, no longer just a planetary system but a quantum ecosystem, continued to shimmer with possibility. Elena looked at the medallion, a final gift from her grandmother, a bridge to something profound. "We're ready," she whispered. The universe listened and began to respond.